Okay, what is up? What is up, Strike Squad? So today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. And the title of this video is Identifying the Why. And what that means is pretty much we're looking at certain things that people do, whether at a high level or a low level within League, and we're trying to identify why. Right? Why are they doing this? What is the purpose? I mean, obviously everybody wants to win the game, so why move that way? Why use that ability? Why level up that way? Why buy that item? Why, right? It's the question that we should kind of always be asking ourselves, especially if we're in the midst of doing like VOD reviews or anything like that. So I'm going to use this as an example. This is from one of the games that I played, and I'm sitting in this bush, right? And I'm just sitting here, and I'm sitting here, and I'm sitting here. And maybe you haven't watched a lot of my gameplay, but the question is why? And it's like, well, because if Nefari walks into this bush, or I can get behind them, right, early, and fight them without taking too much minion aggro, and still keep control of the bush, then I can level up E, and I can get a really strong trade with my legs, right? And it's like, okay, well, this is a really aggressive trade. That's a super aggressive trade. So why are we taking such a super aggressive trade against Nefari so early? Well, it's because I am running Fleet Footwork, and she is running First Strike. So as far as lane sustain goes, I have more lane sustain. I also have a better push, so I can get level 2 first. So if this Nefari makes the mistake of playing up into me too far while I have my W and E, then realistically I have kill pressure before the jungler can get top to help. I also have a ward here, so I know where the Nunu is and where he's going, right? Because my jungler invaded. So now I'm trying to hard shove because it's level 3 and it's into a cannon wave, and I'm trying to get this in as quick as possible, and I know that Nefari doesn't have the wave clear and or the ability to tank the wave because they're not really a tanky top laner, right? So now I get this in, and now I can just back and come back and get a cheeky little cheater recall. Now, we've identified the why. Now, the other thing that we talk about is it's like, okay, so that's great and all, but now why is it important to identify the why? Why is it important to look at our games via this lens? Well, A, because if you look at your own games this way, you'll start to see where you're not thinking, where you're making decisions reactively, or you're reacting to your enemy and you're not actually making a plan. You're not actually thinking critically about your decisions. And until you start thinking critically about your decisions, it's really hard to change them, because if there's no plan in the first place and then we get to the end and there's a bad result, we don't know what to change in the plan. We don't know where to cut it, where to change things, because it never existed in the first place. So we're looking at a reactive process that's happening in the moment with way too many variables that we can't control, and we don't know what to do. We don't know how to improve. Right now, if I have a plan that, hey, I want to play aggressive, right? I keep playing aggressive and I keep dying, and I'm like, okay, why is this plan not working? And maybe it's because you keep getting ganked, right? So now you can change it to, well, I'm going to play aggressive when I can't be ganked, right? And now it's a very different game. Now, the other reason why I think it's important to talk about this, and someone should do a counter and see how many times I say why in this video, but is because when we talk about watching one tricks with your champion and really getting the most out of watching Korean Challenger or North American Challenger, or even if you want to watch, like, let's say you're an Emerald and you want to watch Diamond, or you're, you know, regardless, whatever you watch, unless hopefully you're not watching something that's like a lower division than you, because you do want to learn, right? If you're watching to learn, you have to be able to tell why higher elo players are doing what they're doing. And if you can't tell why they're doing what they're doing, then it's going to end up putting you in a situation where you actually don't get anything out of it. You're watching it, you're seeing them do all of these things, it's really entertaining, but you're so focused on, like, well, their teammate's really good, or, you know, their team's not playing like my team would, or, you know, well, they got lucky here or there, and you're not focused on, why do they position that way? Why do they last hit the wave that way? Why do they trade around that cooldown? Why do they level up that ability in this matchup, etc.? If you're not paying attention to those overall decisions, those macro decisions, those gameplay decisions that are dictating kind of how they pilot the game, then you're missing a giant opportunity to improve. You know, so I think that's probably. Oh man, I remember this dive. It was so scuffed. I was very upset with this Yi when that happened because he's decided to dive before I had even gotten the wave under. But in general, this is kind of what I want to discuss in this video that I hope I like helped you guys conceptualize a little bit. And if I could draw it out just very briefly so that I could so that I could really, you know, put this super simple for you guys. It's like, so if we're reviewing our process, the first thing we have to do is we have to make a decision, right? So there's a decision. Then we need to execute the decision, and then we get an outcome, right? And our outcome is, you know, whatever it is. We'll just call this O and outcome. Looks more like an E. Oh gosh. But, right, so we have a decision, we have the execution of the decision, we have the outcome. When we follow this step-by-step process, 1, 2, 3, over and over, over and over and over and over, what happens is that eventually we can break this down, and then we can say, okay, something isn't going well in my games. Am I making the right decision? Let's check. Okay, we'll review some gameplay, we'll do some VOD reviews, we'll take a look at, you know, the macro, some high-level play, and we'll say, you know what, I am making the right decision. Okay, is it the execution? Well, let me check my champion mastery. Let me check my my build. Let me check the way that I'm leveling my abilities. Let me check the way that I manage my waves, right? Okay. Yes, this is all correct. Okay, well then the outcome should also be correct. But if something breaks down within this process and it's like, okay, I'm making the right decisions, but I'm not executing them, well then we know that it's an issue of execution. But if we're executing perfectly and we're like, dude, my champion master is great, my build is great, like I know what I'm doing, I've played hundreds of games on this champion, well then it has to be the decision making, right? Because if the decision making was perfect and the execution was perfect, then the outcome would be good. Now there are some times where that's not the case, right? And this is like sometimes where we might say there's a little bit of a team diff, like a bad team, but this is very rarely the case. By and large, most of the improvements you can make in League of Legends, I would say probably 7 out of 10, or even like 8 out of 10 of the time, it's going to be like, there's something you're doing wrong. Now, every now and then, like, maybe 20% of the time, 30% of the time, you're doing everything perfectly right, and it's just like, it's just a bad luck situation. But normally, there is something you can improve on. So, I think that's kind of the concept I wanted to cover today. So if you take anything out of this, I would take out of it, like, think about why when you're watching, you know, VOD reviews of high-level players and or your own VOD reviews, so you can start thinking more critically, and then really focus on the decision-making process of make a decision, right? We have the execution of the decision, which is great, and then we have the outcome of the decision, right? And then at that point, we break this down and we have an ability to see where we're making our mistakes, and we have a way to track where we are, where we're getting better. So let me know if you have any feedback for me, anything you really want me to cover, and I will see you guys in the next one.